I think the discussion here has been very enlightening with respect to the problem of bathtubs or integration, because clearly this is not understood by people that badly need to understand it. But I would divide the talk, I think, into two pieces. And one is the understanding the nature of the dynamics. Yes, but then when you come to drawing conclusions from it on what to do, one has to be very careful about the system that you have set up. And one of the fundamental aspects of system dynamics is to start with a model that generates the problem, that shows you why you have the problem before you try to fix it. And too often, people undertake to deal with the symptoms without dealing with the causes. It seems to me the causes here are rising population and rising industrialization, and I don't see the people in climate control paying much attention to those two fundamental driving forces. And in fact, the apparent discussion of mastering pollution takes the emphasis off the underlying driving forces and will lead to the problem getting worse. I don't think it's possible to deal with the symptoms and win when the driving forces are growing, and in fact encouraged to grow. And if you look at any of the public press, how do we get growth back? How do we grow? And growth is, of course, the thing that's causing a whole array of things. Pollution in the environment is just one, and perhaps a minor one. Revolutions, wars, atomic war, they're all going to be driven by rising population. So we need to be a little careful about assuming that understanding the bathtubs of one piece solves the problem. I think the bathtub must be understood, and you won't get to the next step that I'm speaking of until you do. But there's a disconnect in this whole field between fighting symptoms and fighting causes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just one small point on what Drew just said, and maybe linking back to all of us. There has always been this fundamental dilemma in system dynamics. First off, understanding the deeper causes often brings you to things that are daunting. You know, Jay says, well, it's population growth, it's the economic growth, and yet that's the religion of our age, economic growth, right? As he said, everybody wants to get economic growth. Secondly, you realize that you're often dealing with problems that are well into the future. You know, we really haven't seen climate change yet. No one can say for sure. No one has a crystal ball. But just if you consider seriously the implications, the real implications are 30 to 100 years from now. And that also is very daunting. You know, what Drew just said a minute ago, how do you make that emotionally real? I think one thing that we haven't really considered, and I say this because you all have the lever here, kids will make it emotionally real. Because if you sit with a group of 10 or 12 or 15-year-olds or 8-year-olds, and you say, well, the science is uncertain and no one really quite knows if it's going to be 800 or 600 parts per million, and by the way, we don't know exactly how much temperature increase that'll be. It might be a lot, it might be a little, it might, flood this place, it might flood. All of a sudden, all that becomes much less intellectually conjecture, because you're talking about their future. And I think the bridge that no one has started to build, to speak of, is the voice of children worldwide. That you're playing a game of, you're playing in a casino and it's my future that's the outcome. You're rolling dice. Of course there's uncertainty. Of course there's uncertainty. But if it was a 0 probability of, event, we wouldn't be here. If it's a 20% probability event, you cannot tell kids I'm playing dice with your future. It has a different impact. So I just kind of leave that as food for thought. I don't know what it means specifically, but I don't see how we change the religion of our age without a very strong emotional message. And the message, I think, will come from kids.
Thank you.
Last year, I took 3 students to the International System Dynamics Conference in Albuquerque. And 2 things I would like to tell you about the responses they got, or one of them did a model and a presentation on global warming. And the last question that was asked of him at the end of his presentation was, what did this mean to you? Building this model and all. And he said, I thought we had more time. And another student who, my students listened to John Sturman's presentation of climate change. And another one of my students got up in the lines, you know, where they ask questions at the end of the keynote presentations. And he said, is there any hope that the results could be different? And so I think that this is extremely important. We can't wait, actually, for our kids to be the decisions makers. It's our responsibility to teach them now. We have the capability, and they care. They really care about these problems, and I think we need to do something as quickly as possible to bring it into our classrooms.
Thank you. People ask, when we talk about climate change, a lot about hope. Frances Moore LePay has this thing, she said that hope is a stand, not an assessment or a stance. Hope is a stance, not an assessment. We get stuck when we're assessing, do we have time? Can we do anything? But you all, as I said at the start of this, I believe that this movement is a stand. It's a stand that we do have the approaches in the community to make a difference.